Hey babes, my name's Hannah.
And my name's Chasity.
Welcome back to Bookish Babes. Today we are doing a book babble on Tarryn Fisher's newest, An Honest Lie. We both really love this one, but first I want to preface this by saying that this is going to be a completely spoiler-filled video. So if you haven't read this yet, give this video a like or add it to your watch later list, read the book, and then come back and watch this because we're going to spoil everything from this. I have a lot of thoughts. This one was a wild ride. So yeah, we're just going to jump into it. Like I said, turn this video off now if you haven't read it.
For real.
You guys know that we will read a grocery list if Tarryn Fisher publishes it. And this was one of my favorites by her. I really liked it. This was about a woman named Rainey, and we kind of go back and forth. It's like a present and a past tense point of view book, which I really like those. I know they're not for everybody, but I really enjoy those. And
I also really enjoy those. I like different timelines.
I like that you're finding out her backstory as a reader as the story progresses. You know what I mean? And it's not just like dumped on you in the beginning.
I really like different timelines, and there's like, for me, there's always like that moment where everything kind of just comes together.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's just that aha moment for me where the narrative just all kind of comes together, and I enjoy that. There's a lot of people out there that do not feel the same way about that type of writing, which is fine, but I definitely enjoy that.
Religious cults interest me so much, and I didn't obviously know going into this that was what it was going to be.
Same.
And so I was very pleasantly surprised. First of all, I just want to reference all of the biblical references in the book, which obviously was very intentional. But I mean, like, everything from the guy at the end, his name being Paul, and like the reference to Paul in the Bible. And I didn't even grow up religious, and yet I still caught a lot of those references.
There's something about Tarryn Fisher's writing is like there's so much more, like, obviously most writers do everything with a purpose. But there's really, I feel like there's so many purposes to what Tarryn does, and it's more than just the surface level.
Right, because which there are those surface level references. Right. Like, obviously her name then being Summer and her name now being Rainy.
That's another one.
That's literal and metaphorical, and it was beautiful. Because obviously I didn't know going into it, but it became glaringly obvious in the beginning that like they were the same people.
Yeah.
But I was like, the whole situation was just, it all took me by surprise.
I agree.
I also want to point out another reference. When I first read this, I thought this was a typo, and then I realized that it was too perfect to be a typo. On page, I know, just, hold on, what page is it on? I'm going to have to cut this part out. So on page 85, this is a then chapter, so this is technically a summer chapter. It's when she enters the RV and starts finding these pictures. It goes from saying like Summer closed the door to saying Rainy's forehead creased, and then it immediately goes back to calling her Summer. And so when I first read that, I caught that and I was like, that's interesting. That can't be a typo. Because after that, I quickly realized that that's kind of where the story shifted and the tone shifted, which I think is genius.
Yeah. It's definitely...
Yeah. If it was a typo, it was a very, like... it was lucky that it, like, ended up like, there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so impactful. I think a lot of the psychology behind her writing... and having to be very aware.
It's all very well thought out.
Yes. It's so much planning and so strategic when she is writing. And I fucking loved every aspect of that, because I am such, like, I could just eat that shit up.
Right.
Like, I love that.
My favorite thing about her writing is that she does not shy away from characters in their trauma. she does that a lot with like every single one of her characters. They all had like some sort of traumatic backstory, but she doesn't like brush that off.
No.
It's very much like you're living the character's trauma with them. And it's great to read.
Yeah, human flaws.
Yeah.
She's very much about humanity and flaws and trauma and just human beings as we are. Because a lot of fiction, I think, is we're just fictionalizing it and making it a lot more beautiful than it really is.
Right. And
there is a lot of beauty in life, but
these characters are very flawed. I really feel like, you know, the fact that she had such great insecurity in the life that she was living, because she really didn't belong in either life. The then versus the now, she really didn't belong in either space. And so I think that she carried a lot of insecurity with her into adulthood, in her relationship, and these friendships that she had. I struggle to like call those women her friends, but she really carried that with her. And I really do think that it was all leading up to the end where her helping Braith was just like a projection back to when Sarah helped her. You know what I mean?
Just like passing it along.
Yeah, because why else, like it's even like a question at the end of the book is like, why do you think that she helped Braith after how she treated her?
It wasn't because it wasn't.
Because I don't think it was
Braith.
selfless. I really don't. Because human beings like are selfish by nature. I think that it was like she felt like it was paying it forward somehow.
Yeah, I really think it was more of a paying it forward motion more than anything, because I don't think it really was about Braith at all.
No. Because I mean it's just human nature that like somebody who treats you like that and somebody who makes you insecure in your relationship, which she did towards the end, like you obviously don't enjoy that person. But I think in a way maybe it was a little bit selfless, like she realizes she needs to push back her own feelings in order to help this woman not die. But also it was just very much like you see what Sarah did reference so much throughout the book, and I think that she needed to pay that back.
Yeah. I agree. I do have to say that I really feel like Rainey was one of my favorite characters that Tarryn has ever written, because number one, I really related to Rainey. Like, and I usually, like, I've had other characters that I related to in different aspects and different ways that she's written, but I really related to Rainey on like different levels.
I couldn't really relate to anything she went through, but I could relate with how she was processing her trauma.
Absolutely.
I also do really want to reference, sorry if you see me scrolling through, it's because I've got like little sticky notes and everything all throughout the book, the religious cult, because that aspect was the most interesting to me of the book. I loved that. I loved that part of it.
I just could not get enough of those chapters.
It really emphasized how I have my own opinions on religion in general, but so I don't want to like make a blanket statement, but it kind of does show that people who come to religion are vulnerable. Because look at how Rainey and her mother came. They were escaping their past, and they were seeking something. They were seeking somewhere that they could belong and people that could help them. And they accidentally fell into like this horrible religious cult.
Yeah.
And I think that was an important distinction to make, because it's really easy from the outside to look at people who are in cults like that and be like, well, they could have left at any time. Why did they even go to begin with? Like, who would belong to something like that?
That's absolutely an interesting point, because I thought it was very interesting to see exactly how they ended up there. Was all the different things against
Rainey / Summer's mother's backstory too.
That's what I was going to say, is how they ended up there. All the circumstances with her mom, which led them there, and her mom knowing Torrid and ending up there. And then it was so interesting for me to see when her mom flipped and knew all this shit that was going down, and she's seen it for what it was.
And to be fair, it wasn't the timeline between her mom flipping and Summer flipping wasn't that long.
No, it was not that long.
But you did get to see that conversation between them and how deep she was in it. And how she was saying like, like, don't let anybody else hear you say that. And, you know, she literally got up and ran out of the eating hall or whatever they call it. And it was just, like, interesting to see that dynamic between them shift a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it shifted back.
Yeah, it was very strange.
It was
and that was
very
kind of, yeah, because you think about it, like you said, it was a very short time between, like, summer. Is it still summer then?
Yeah. But she was shifting into rainy.
Still feeling very convinced and very like, what is wrong with you kind of thing.
And the mom feeling the guilt.
Yeah,
Because she's the one that introduced her to this.
She put her there to believe in
Did we
this.
ever learn the mom's name?
Yeah, I think so.
We're really bad with names.
I literally forget somebody's name.
I usually forget the main character's name.
I forget somebody's name.
But it was such a huge role in this book that I didn't forget it because I know her name's meant so much. I don't know. I'm just going to call her Summer/Rainy's mom. I also want to point out that towards the end, you learn the detail that the compound that they have the cult at used to be a prison. And the irony of that fact was interesting to me.
I thought they introduced that in the beginning as well.
Maybe I missed it.
Or maybe I did read an advanced reader copy, so maybe it's not in there anymore.
Okay. So maybe they changed that.
Maybe they changed
Yeah.
it.
But they also very well could have said in the beginning, and it just like flew in my head.
I don't know.
But it was just really interesting to me because obviously it was very prison-like. And it makes sense with how they were like describing the layout. How there was like a big eating hall, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was all just weird.
The whole
From
thing
the very
was
beginning,
weird.
it was like, this is weird. And in a great way. It was a great book, but I also think this is freaking...
The whole thing
was
weird. So weird. Also how it was like a religious cult, but not overly religious either. Because it was like a cult.
It's not in your face
religion.
Talking about
it's just
God. It's very
it's
much...
got very different ideas.
It's a way to control people, but especially women. It's very
Which is very cultish.
Yeah.
I mean, every cult's got their own thing, right?
But the irony of it being like a religious cult and all of the horrible things that are done there, and the way that Tarryn treats her, especially during like that softball game. Do you remember that?
Oh my God.
That like was really difficult for me to read, and the fact that when Summer and her mother tried to escape and they brought them back
again
to the compound and they stripped her naked in front of people. And like that's just so so like it being a religious cult is ironic to me because it's so the opposite of what Christianity should be, and yet that's what it was in this book. I feel like I had something else that I wanted to point out. Yeah, so this one is like the beginning of chapter 8. This is a then chapter. She was talking about how Tarryn really manipulated them because of all the bad things that were happening in the world at this time. And it said here something about like it was Monica Lewinsky at the time. A tornado ripped through Oklahoma.
I remember this.
Yeah. So it says, why were these things happening, both in nature and to the nature of people? America, Tarryn told them, had become godless, and as a result, the country as a whole was under a spiritual attack.
Spiritual attack.
It's that sort of manipulation and fear-mongering that like gets people to stay in cults like that, and I really, really, really love that she added that bit in, because once again, it's very easy from the outside to question why. It's easy to assume that could never happen to somebody like you. And that it only happens to a certain type of person. But you see
fear is so powerful.
They feel safe there.
For instance, like mass hysteria and mass panic just happened. Like we all just watched it.
We all just
with,
experienced
like,
it.
COVID. You guys, like people were out there crazy
fighting people over toilet paper.
Fighting over toilet paper. I mean, we just watched it. So like imagine like things like that, you know, like these crazy tornadoes and stuff happening, and somebody telling you, you know, like
it's interesting because I just had a conversation with a friend who grew up in a very strict like church, and he was telling me about how a lot of people think that what's going on right now, the pandemic and everything, is the reckoning.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of people who believe that.
And so it's interesting that like this, with everything that we've experienced in the past few years as a society, and then reading this and seeing how easy it would be to believe that.
Oh, for sure.
Because that happens to them, that doesn't happen to us, because it's godless out there.
Right, you're safe here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that sort of fear mongering that gets people to stay.
The mass panic.
Yeah.
Fear is a very strong motivator. Also, I may be crazy for thinking this, but I did see a little bit of, in Rainy's world, you know, she's still kind of newer to this friend group, and I definitely use this.
Yeah.
You know, she's still kind of the new girl. These are all the other wives of
these women are horrible.
Grant.
Yeah.
Can't believe I remembered his name.
Yeah, I know. Because he was not a major character.
No, he wasn't.
That's
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, he was kind of there, not really. Their behavior, the other women, the, what were they called? The Tiger Mountain Club?
Sure.
Yeah, the Tiger Mountain
Club. They had
a
name for themselves.
I think that's what it was called. That's what I'm saying, is their behavior and the fact that it was a lot different from them, and the fact that Rainy was definitely a bit very wary and suspicious of them, which I definitely think she should.
Tiger Mountain Group.
Tiger Mountain Group. Okay, sorry, I said club, whatever. Group. I definitely think she should have been wary and suspicious of them. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop on them the entire time, but I kind of felt like it was almost, obviously not to that extreme, but I kind of felt like it was another cult.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that. Yeah. Because I thought that too. I was like, it's so easy for somebody like her to find comfort in other places in her life. She at one point felt a lot of comfort in that cult. Obviously it didn't end well for her, but of course she would try to find something else that would give her that same comfort.
Right? Even if she doesn't feel like she belongs necessarily.
It's just what she's used to.
She put herself in those situations, those uncomfortable situations.
Also, can we talk about her husband? I don't know if we were supposed to like him. I didn't like him though. He very much like threw her to the wolves. Because he has to know how these women are.
I felt that as well. I felt like he should have understood that she was more of a lone wolf.
Yeah.
She obviously craved alone time.
And when he made her feel crazy towards the end, when she brought up, why didn't you mention that you and Braith had a thing? And he's like, well, it was so long ago. That doesn't matter. You're asking me to go on this trip with her, and we spend time with her and her husband all the time, and you didn't even mention it?
Yeah, no, I would have been so
He very much gaslighted her.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say I didn't like him.
I mean, because he wasn't like outright horrible, but there was
I didn't like him. He was very, very. He did gaslight her, and he had some traits I didn't like very much.
But also, if you think about it, it would be very weird for somebody like Rainy, who grew up as Summer and everything that she endured, to end up in like a normal, healthy relationship.
It's true, because she is also. I also didn't agree with the fact that she really didn't tell him everything.
Yeah.
But how do you tell someone you were in a cult?
Yeah.
They would probably run out the front door.
Was not, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because there are different, different women. Women are all amazing, but different women are good at different things. She, to me, was not the leader type. She almost needed somebody. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a leader type either. But she gravitated towards people that she could just sit and observe. I think that's why she gravitated towards those women too. She didn't like them, but it was comfortable for her because they had bigger personalities, and she didn't have to lead a conversation. They really didn't ask her that many deep questions about herself. It was really easy for her to just fall in. Because they all were like narcissists and they just wanted to talk about themselves. I think people like that who are not like natural, I don't know if leader is the right word, but you know what I mean. Where she doesn't want to be the center of attention, and so she tends to spend her time around people who do want to be the center of attention, and those are the kind of vibes that her husband gave me. That he needed to be
That's exactly what her husband gave.
Yes.
He was very much so.
It makes sense that she would gravitate towards him, and it makes sense that he would gravitate towards her because he can be the main character of their relationship, and she doesn't care.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
No, I do completely agree with that.
She seemed to be pretty comfortable in social situations as long as I just think she was more, at least how I took it, she just didn't want any super personal questions because obviously if anybody asked her anything about her past, it would...
See, and that's where I get into the kind of murky waters here.
Yeah.
Where, like, if I'm going to pass the judgment on Grant,
she didn't tell me
I have to kind of pass the judgment on Rainey, too. So I kind of feel like, even though I really didn't fully care for Grant, I really don't know. Because...
Right, but to play devil's advocate, he was hiding a past, like, relationship that he should have brought up. She's hiding, like, major trauma.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
But she did lie. She did lie. A lot. To somebody that she's married
While
to.
I don't agree with Grant, he definitely should have told her that 100%. 100%. I also feel like they needed to be on a little bit more equal footing. I don't feel like Rainey was giving him the best chance at doing what was best for her because he didn't really know what she needed. And
he was very much just like I'm gonna work, and you're gonna go on these fun little trips with my friends' wives.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he thought he was doing what was best for her, but he didn't really know her.
But whose fault is that? You know?
Yeah.
Because she didn't really let him know her.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, like, I don't like him, but some of the things I can't necessarily fault him for.
That's probably the only other thing I want to say about the women is the one who is pregnant, who maybe is Viola, we think?
Yeah, we're really bad with names.
I would be wanting to maybe know something more about her. Other than that, they were very dull women to me. They're very one-dimensional, which I think that was done on purpose. I can't obviously speak for Tarryn, but I really think that was done on purpose. Yeah, I just don't think I like them very much. Maybe there was more to them, but...
Let's talk briefly about the very end.
Okay.
What were your thoughts?
The very end?
Yeah. She's doing, like, that interview. Like the last few pages.
Okay, hang on.
She brings up Sarah again. I just feel like Rainey...
Oh, okay.
In the last bit of the book, every decision she made is just like a little ode to Sarah. You know?
Everything.
Yeah. Oh, because even like that heavy tip that she gave to that person and told them to get out of town. You know what I mean? Because she was like, that was me once. I needed to get out. And they're like, did you? And she was like, yeah, hell yeah, I got out. She on that page, let me see if I think I have it like...
Sarah's kid?
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sarah's son. It's just like all these decisions are just so heavily weighed in like the debt that she feels towards Sarah. And it's interesting because like, see, Sarah's sacrifice seems very small in the moment, but you see how this like completely changed the course of her life.
Yeah.
And how, because really Sarah and her family were in it much deeper than Rainey and her mother were. And to see somebody still realize...
She never got out. No. Sarah never got out.
No. It's all very sad when you think about it. And like I remember reading the chapter where the female police officer that was there was like, no, she needs to go to a hospital and get checked out, and she can hear the ambulance sounds. It reminds me very much of, did you watch The Handmaid's Tale? Reminds me of like the episode of The Handmaid's Tale, if you guys have watched it, where Emily arrives in Canada. It's like you feel like relief throughout your whole body. When I read that, I was like, oh my God. Like I felt the relief with her. And if you watch The Handmaid's Tale, you know what I'm talking about when Emily finally escaped Gilead. Like that, like sort of like feeling that where you're feeling it with the character. But I just like think back to that moment all the time and like how that was all possible because of Sarah. Sarah was like, had very little like face time in the book, but was arguably one of the second most important character.
I agree. I love. She played such a huge role.
Yeah.
And like I wonder at like what cost, because like we don't know.
I mean, it's definitely suggested that she was punished.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But like obviously we're not there anymore.
We don't know. How does Jordan compare and contrast with other real life cult leaders? Think of Jim Jones, Charles Manson, Keith Raniere, and others.
It's in the same way that I don't quite know what Torrid's endgame was.
I don't either.
Like, what was the point of it all? Was it just control? It has to be. Because was he trying to build
really
a whole new like world almost
with that?
Like he wanted them to like reproduce together and live on the compound. But I mean, realistically, he had to know that that wasn't gonna last long.
With like all his children,
right?
Like he would reproduce, like he would recreate the entire population. And
but
what
he doesn't live. He's not a man of God with how he acts, and so like I guess I can almost, and not justifying it, but I can almost understand like, you know, leaders of like the Mormon church. They really feel like they are like God is speaking through them. There's no way he believed that God was speaking through him. Or maybe he did. Maybe he was just that full of himself. That he felt that he could get away with doing all the horrible things, the raping and the bullying and the physical abuse and having people killed, and that was all like part of the greater good, you know?
Honestly, I feel like I need to reread it and pay attention to him more, because I was so focused on her that now
he was very intriguing for me.
Yeah.
And how he kept calling her Summertime. In the scenes where like it kind of almost like fades to black, but you can tell that she was definitely assaulted by him, and
100%.
Very sad.
You never get that fool, but oh yeah.
No.
That was... Yeah, I didn't need the...
But it was important to her character arc. Because once again, Tarryn just does not like shy away from talking about characters' trauma. And that happens in religious cults, and so I feel like
nor should she, because if people have to go through it, we should at least
this
have
is all
respect
stuff
to
that
read about
really
it
happens
and listen to it, and see it.
Yep. That's all I have to say about it.
Yep.
But we just talked forever. These book babbles are literally just when we turn on the camera and like talk about our feelings on the book. So
that's it.
Yes.
We talk about what they're about and our feelings on them.
And I'm really interested to hear your guys' thoughts, so please comment your thoughts down below.
Yes. Please comment down below and let us know what you thought about it. I really hope you didn't just sit here and watch the entire video and you haven't read the book. So
but we did warn you.
Please, let's discuss down below. Hit that like button and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when we post next. Bye. Bye.